keep striving for this religion that we preach. Keep pushing, for nothing's ever out of reach. Because the time we keep on driving, it's all that much we go. The time we keep on fighting, and these colors I wear will be sold through the skins of my soul.
Right, welcome to another eventual edition of the Luton Town International Podcast. Gavin's been doing his hair, his makeup, his lighting, got his selfie ring, I kid you not, there. So he was getting wine ready, seems to be sucking out of a beaker. How are you, Gav?
Look, last week we tried to record this show and I sat here and gave Alex an awful time. Of the part that didn't actually go out, by the way, it never actually went out. I gave him an awful time for about 20-25 minutes because we couldn't get this going. And then we recorded and I found out that my audio was shit. And then I tried to fix that audio and made it even shitter. And the show went up like that because I just couldn't be bothered. It was either not put it out at all or just put it out the way it is. And after talking to you two, it was just put it out the way it is and just put a disclaimer. So after that debacle, I told you, both you guys, that it will be more professional from here on out. Or at least I'm going to try to be more professional from here on out. So I've got the lighting, I've got the mic, I've got the headphones. I was going to wear a suit and tie, but I thought that might be going a little overboard.
Okay, what I did, I turned on my laptop, waited 50 minutes for you to finish bugging around, and then that's it. It's simple.
And that's why I need headphones, because you don't wear headphones. So if I didn't wear headphones, then you would just be blasting back off my microphone. So
right.
Professional.
We don't do professional. We've never done.
This would be so much easier if we were in the same location. Ever thought about moving to California?
No. No, I'm averse to Trump.
That's going to get us some likes on the podcast. Well done, Nick.
It's going to get some hatred if any of those Trump fans you've got over there.
Especially where I live. Okay. Right. I just also want to say I was going to host this edition. That was the plan. I was going to host it because I had my setup, I think, finally right. But then you sent the run notes and I can't understand your writing. So you're going to host.
It was typed. Yeah,
and I still couldn't understand it. That's how bad he is. His first language is English. Now, given mine probably is too, although I could claim Irish Osqueiliga if I wanted to.
Your first language
he cannot type for the life of him.
I can't type. I definitely can't
type. And then you give me shit.
Yeah, absolutely. I bother typing if it's worthwhile. You know it's not.
Let's go. Let's get this on the road.
Right. Anyway, I suppose we had to talk about some football rather than just insulting each other. So yeah, we've got one game to talk about. We seem to have about one game a week, but we don't seem to have too many midweeks, being the Premier League. So yeah, Fulham game, formation change. We kind of we put Ben at left to wing back, which I was a bit thinking, right, we've got some more attacking options there. We've actually gone for you've gone for two banks of four, plus you got Chong and Brown. Actually, Brown making his first start, coming supporting Morrison attack, but actually forming a solid defensive. And I think for the most part, it worked. I mean, I think you texted during the game. It sort of came up. I don't know why. I don't know why I was checking my phone on there. But you said, "Oh no, we're really under the cosh here." I didn't think we were. I think it was okay. We'll let them have possession. They can't do anything with it. And for the most part, that was true. And I think we better have the better chances.
Fulham had a lot of the ball, an awful lot of the ball. I would like that to change in games going forward. And I'm not saying I want us to have the majority of possession, but closer than I think at one point they had 80-something% possession. I would like a bit closer than that. But in saying that, we had the best chances. Now, I think he got the formation and the personnel right. Because we've talked about, I don't know if we talked about it on here, but we've definitely talked about in the group chat that maybe moving Bell out of left centre back would be best for him, because I felt that he was being found out a little bit playing left centre back as someone who, let's face it, is a natural left back. He's done extremely well there, don't get me wrong, but it seems to be shown in the last couple of weeks. him playing left back gave us a bit more stability defensively to what Giles would give us. And then, although they seem to line it up on the TV, or at least the broadcast I was watching, they lined it up as a 5-3-2 with Brown and Morris playing up top. It pretty much was Morris by himself, with Brown dropping onto the right, Sean going left, or Sean going right and Brown going left, and then leaving Nakamba and Sambi in the centre. I thought it was fine. I thought away from home in the Premier League, that probably should be the way we go going forward. Again, it was a bank of 5 at the back, then a bank of 4 in front of that to defend them, and then we were able to break quickly enough to cause Fulham problems. And let's face it, Fulham won and they got the goal that they needed, but the game should have been long out of reach of Fulham by the time they scored.
It should have been at least a draw, and I think some of the fans I was speaking to and hearing on the way back from the station were saying pretty much the same thing. But I mean, I'll go back to some of the reasons after that. But let's talk about our chances. So obviously, Chong's chance, I think he's got quite a surprising turn of pace. Nobody up with him. I think he probably did the best he could. He got the ball on target. That's what you can ask.
Yeah, I honestly, when you mentioned that in the chances, I don't even think of it as a chance. I think Chong doing extremely well to break away and use his pace down the left. But at the final shot was poor, and like they were closing in them. The only thing I could think of is maybe hold it up and see if you can hold it up, see if you can pull it back, and see if you can get some other people coming forward. Although there wasn't that much coming.
No, I watched the highlights back after, because I mean, obviously, as you see a game at the time, you see the highlights back after. There wasn't really anybody coming up in support. There were about 3 people trying to get back, so I don't think he could really do much more there.
Yeah.
Then you got Carlton Morris. He's had an effort from about 8 yards out. Ball's come back to him. Just get it on target, please. I mean, we know he can do, but that was again a big chance.
So one of the things I looked at Morris coming into the season was specifically from last season was his goals scored, and was there a pattern in the goals that he scored, i.e. left foot, right foot, header, that sort of thing, and there wasn't. He scored with his left, he scored with his right, and he scored quite a few with his head. That's why I felt, and I still feel like Carlton Morris can be a real handful at this level, at the Premier League level, because I think realistically he can score any which way. Now, in saying that, I was surprised he took it with his left foot. The way that ball's dropping, I personally would have probably tried to go with my right foot.
Well, I would take it with my right foot as well, because I'm completely one-footed.
Well, me too, yeah. But saying as someone who can hit with both, like I probably would have taken it on my right foot. Like if I didn't have 2 left feet, I probably would have went for that with my right foot rather than my left foot. That's just me. Now I think I can understand what he's trying to do. He's trying with his right foot, he can really only go one area, which is the area the deep ball ended up going, I think. With his left foot, there's a chance of going that side and the far side of the goalkeeper. And I actually think maybe he was trying to go the far side of the goalkeeper. But I don't have a problem with a miss. I don't have a problem with him trying it, because those sort of chances are going to come off. And all it really showed me was he's starting to get an understanding. He's starting to understand where the players around him are going to be. Because we talked about in the last podcast, like you're looking at a whole new midfield. Nakamba came in at the end of last season, but other than that, a whole new midfield. 2 new wing backs, although Jaws didn't play on Saturday. It's stuff that both him and Eli have to get used to. And I think there was signs of it on Saturday for Morris that he's starting to come to grips, where he's starting to understand what the other players around him are thinking and are going to do.
I mean, obviously, we had to point out Fulham aren't as good a side as the others we played this season. But it's again, end of the day, if you're getting yourself in chances, some are going to come off. We had a few more from similar sort of distances. Obviously, the glaring one is Jacob Brown. So his first start, I thought he did really well. But again, it's almost a free header from 8 yards out. He hits the post, so an inch either side. Again, we're a goal up. That changed the game.
You say to any
inch either side, an inch inside the post, obviously.
Yeah. You say to any player in that position to get it on target, and he couldn't have got it any closer to being on target. Well,
he could. He could have actually got it on
he
target.
Without scoring, he couldn't have got it any closer on target.
Yeah.
again, wasn't disappointed. It showed an understanding. It showed Brown getting into them positions. There was a lot of positives, but in saying that, you would have liked to see him score. I think having watched back the replays, it would have been called back because I think his pinky toe was offside.
The way VAR, I mean, I'll get to VAR later on, but I mean, it was the way VAR works or doesn't work is ridiculous. Actually, I'm going to get to VAR right now because the next thing I'm going to talk about is Colson Morris getting rugby tackled on the way to a free kick. How the hell does VAR review that and not see that? I mean, it wasn't even close. That's something you look in the Rugby World Cup that's going across the channel. That's not even a debate, surely.
No, it was a stonewall penalty. Two things. I think if memory serves, that was coming near the end of the first half, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if they were just let's get to fucking halftime. Because there was bits in the first half, especially with Paulina, where you were kind of looking at it going, oh, that's nasty, or oh, that should have been a free kick, or those little, like, the tackle on was a Zambi, should have been at least a yellow card, but it wasn't. Could have been possibly a red because he went in studs up, and I think he's a fantastic player, but he was probably Fulham's best player on Saturday, but it was a dangerous tackle. VAR, I don't believe even looked at the tackle on Zambi. I think they're looking to get to halftime. And they're just, again, you got to understand, VAR is not an automated service. It's people's interpretation of the game, and people like these people in the centers are human. These referees that are in the centers doing VAR assistance or whatever the hell
if you got the
human.
replays, I mean, you said that one on Morris. You said VAR looked at it.
VAR did look at it and they didn't give it. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's interpretation of the game. Now, that leads into my second point. I think what helped was the fact that the Fulham player went down and stayed down.
I mean, I saw it, obviously, sort of, it was the other end of the pitch for me, but it was, you saw it and think, that looks a bit dubious. And then you see the replay and think, oh my God, that is so blatant. So,
yeah, it was a stonewall penalty.
The went down and stayed down because he actually dived full lengths of rugby tackling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think he injured himself in the process. But you see it time and time again where a player makes a tackle and then the player stays down and the referee kind of goes lenient on him, even though it should have been a yellow or whatever. The referee goes lenient on him because he thinks he's injured. Should that change it? No. And we're talking about VAR, and VAR are humans. They're humans, and it's the human interpretation of the game. The problem is that they're not robots, and the interpretation of the game is different from one person to the next, and that's why you're seeing such inconsistencies within calls within the first 5 weeks of the Premier League season. That's why you're seeing so many inconsistencies.
To actually watch the replay, watch the game, and then make a decision on it, and they're not doing that, and it's thinking, right, on that one, surely thinking, right. So their play goes down after he's dived full length to bring Morris down, but Morris then goes down as well. I think, surely looking at it's got to be. I mean, I think something we're going to have to get used to is basically, if you're not the big six, you're not going to get VAR decisions. Here's
the other thing as well, Nick. You got to understand, they were showing. They had Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher go to wherever, I can't remember the name of the place that they have the VAR reviews at. It's called a certain name. I can't remember the name. But they had Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville go there, and they were basically saying, are the camera views or the camera angles that you see on TV, are they the only angles you have? And they said, yeah, they're the only angles we have. Now, in saying that, the best camera angle that I seen on Saturday was a mile away. It was like from the halfway line. It would still look like a penalty. Don't get me wrong, but there was no clearer picture. So they're having to make a decision based on that. Now, as a Luton fan, I'm saying it's a penalty. A Fulham fan would probably turn around and say it's not a penalty. And again, that's subjective, depending on who your team is or if you're a neutral or whatever. But if that's the only view they have of it, then that's a problem then as well. If we're going to use VAR, then we have to get these guys better equipment and better angles and better views of decisions, Now, that's only going to come with more investment and more money. But at the same point, there's no point in getting better views, better angles, and all investing all this money if, as Paul Heckingbottom said over the weekend, the refs don't understand the game. And that is a problem that has come up this season, is the refs don't understand the game.
Or the VAR refs. And I mean, actually, my
None of
VAR
them.
rant was going to wait till later. I mean, actually, I'll come to that because it's again not a bit because it comes up with a bit different on a few other points. But I mean, just sticking to the game for now. We had obviously their goal. I thought at the time, again, finding the pitch, I thought it was a keeper error. Having looked at it back again, I don't think there's much he could really do about it.
No, the only thing he could possibly do is I've heard some people say punch it. Instead of just getting the hand to it, put a punch to it and try to punch it away. I don't think it makes any difference, if I'm being honest.
It's about half a yard off the ground when it comes to
The only thing I think he can do is leave it. And at that point, I think it gets to Anderson, and then you've got a mad scramble in your box, depending on where that ball comes off Anderson. Could come off Anderson and go in. Could come off Anderson's knee and bounce right to the goalkeeper, and he just picks it up. You don't know what's going to happen. With the problem with that goal was that we didn't stop the cross coming in.
Yeah,
and then Burke
in the season.
Yeah, and then Burke completely missed the header. And I think that's what happened. That's what caused Kaminsky to react the way he did. Is he's expecting Burke to knock that ball out for a corner, and then the ball all of a sudden is a pass Burke, and I don't think he knows what or who is around him, and he's just trying to get something on the ball to stop it.
Yeah.
Now, in saying that, you're a goalkeeper. You should know, right? You should know what's around your box. You should know what you're going to. All that should be. You should be commanding that area. And I say that because I will say that
half yard off the ground. So
yeah,
he's stretching forward. He's one-handed. He only get one hand to it. So it comes across. He's trying to cut that cross out whichever way he can because he doesn't know who's lurking behind him. Because let's face it, you can't be looking in 5 directions at once.
And I say that to bring up the fact of I don't blame him for the goal. But if you start Krul in the next game, I'm also not bothered.
I think Kaminsky's done well, pretty much.
He has. He has. He's made a couple of errors. He made an error in the West Ham game. He made what you could possibly call an error in this game. Again, he's done fine. I don't blame him for us having 0 points. But at the same point, if Edwards turns around and says, I'm starting Krul in the next game, I'm okay with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's brought in 2 keepers to battle for the number 1 jersey. He's not bought. He's deliberately bought not bought a keeper and a backup keeper. He's brought in 2 number 1s.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But I don't think Kaminsky's getting dropped.
No, I think it. Again, if it happens, I'm fine with it. If Kaminsky stays, I'm fine with it. I think he'll get better as it goes along because again, he was a pretty late signing in the transfer window. Krul was even later, but he was a pretty late signing, and he's still getting the grips with the defenders, and it hasn't helped that we haven't had a settled back 3 yet this season.
I mean, there's a couple of other chances we had, obviously in the second half. We had Amari Bell. I mean, it's good work down the right. I think it was Jacob Brown to get the ball in. Bell, I think he shows a left back. I mean, he got it on target, but it was on target straight down the goalkeeper's throat. It came to him. You can't necessarily say it's a bad miss, but at this level, you need to be trying to get chances like that in when you get them because you're not going to get too many.
The height wasn't great when he was shooting it. It wasn't fantastic, but at the same point, you've got to be scoring them. And I think if that falls to anyone other than Bell, then you've probably got a goal on your hand. He went with the inside of his boot for some reason. I don't understand why.
It's because it's coming across.
It was coming across him. It was coming across him, and he was just. I think he was just trying to guide it back across goal and see if maybe he could catch the goalkeeper out. But I think with a shot like that, you've got to get more. You got to get more power on it.
Well, no, not necessarily more power, but just not put it down the goalkeeper's throat.
Here's the thing, though: if you get more power on that, even if the keeper saves it, I don't think he comfortably saves it the way he does. And then it's back out in the box, and you've got players in the box, and there's a chance that you're always going to score.
I think the main thing is you get it on target first of all, because having power that goes over the bar is no good whatsoever. If you get it on target, that's always a chance. But I mean, he was stretching, but again, it was a decent chance. And final one was Tom Lockyer. Pushed up front, suddenly thinking, okay, what's he doing up here permanently? It was Tom Lockyer seemed to come up and play as emergency striker for the last 5 minutes. But again, he's had a header, and he can normally get those, but it just didn't get enough on it. You saw his face after. He knew that was a chance.
Yeah, it was, and we've seen Lockyer last year put them home. You know, playoff semi-final against Sunderland comes to mind. He just didn't connect with it. Didn't connect with it properly, and that's why I say a lot of positives. Is because now will I be saying a lot of positives when it's January, February, and we're still not putting these chances away? Probably not. But there's a lot of positives because we're creating chances. You know, and
we've created more chances than we have done so far. We've actually conceded less clear-cut chances than we have so far. And again, that was the away game. Now, obviously, it was sort of, we'll come to it later, but I mean, we need to be getting something in these next 3 games, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. You cannot be on 0 points after these next 3 games. Just can't.
Well,
if we're on 0 points after these next 3 games, then you seriously got to look at it and go, okay, let's start looking at next season.
I mean, I don't think that's the case as yet.
I'm not saying we're relegated. I'm just saying let's start. Let's not, because you look at the next 3 games would lead us into middle of October, November. You're probably looking at players that you might bring in during January, right? At that point, you're looking at.
I think if you're doing it, I mean, you've got the next 3 games middle of October, November. Then you've got the international break, and then you get in December. And December is hard.
Yeah, December is extremely hard. We've got what? Arsenal. Chelsea already beat us. Remember that. We've got Arsenal, City, Newcastle, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Sheffield United, if memory serves me right, in there as well, right?
Yeah, they're Boxing Day.
Yeah.
And Bournemouth, which I suppose the only other one we might get to sort of, look at. I think that's a reasonable one. But I mean, generally, that's a tough December. Right. Just on the atmosphere, it's Fulham. I think Fulham, it's I'm not sure if it came across the TV. I've never known a set of fans at home quite so quiet. They made a noise when Kaminsky was booked. Again, that's in a later book. And when they scored, apart from that, that was it. I mean, they're all sitting there and basically in scarves in 26 degrees. These scarves, I'm guessing there's some sort of giveaway. That's the only reason I can think of. But Chelsea, when I watched the game in there, their fans were quiet as well. Is this the Premier League? Is this absolutely full of plastic tourist fans that don't care?
Yeah, pretty much. Again, the broadcast that I had on, had to apologize a number of times for the language because you lot at the ground were chanting "Who's the wanker in the black?" So, but again, like, how often do you hear commentators have to apologize for language in the Premier League? Never.
Especially
hardly ever, I should say. It's just.
I'm glad our feelings of the referee came across quite clearly, because that brings me on to my next point.
The Premier League is just very sanitized. It's very Disney.
I think it's just very, very tourist, isn't it? It's just thinking, right, when you got fans who don't sing. I mean, I think there's a few reports saying the Fulham fans were getting disenchanted with the team. I didn't notice. You couldn't hear a thing from them.
They were very quiet.
They were seriously quiet.
You think about it, like, what fans have we seen this year that haven't been quiet?
West Ham push away fans, I think.
When they were ahead.
Yeah.
Chelsea fans when they were 3-0 up, maybe.
No, Chelsea fans not at all. Brighton fans, can't remember. Maybe they had a few things, but it was. But I'm hearing our fans above the other fans all the time, even when we're the away team.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's the way you want it. As I said, like, it's just very sanitized. It's very PC. It's very nice.
I mean, it's not us.
It's not. It's not. It like you look at Luton and you look at the club, and we talk about being a family club, but we know where we've come from, and we know
we're a family club. But I mean, when it comes to match, we can be a completely horrible, abusive bunch, and that's the way it should be. And if people sort of, if people die, if people cheat, if everybody makes a mistake, or we think they have, we're right on them, and that's what I love about it.
we've come. We know where we've come from. We know who's done us wrong, and we're not going to forget that. We're not going to let them forget it either.
Can I just point out? Hang on. They apologized for saying the referee's a wanker, but they didn't apologize for saying fuck the FA and the Football League.
I'll be honest with you. That didn't come across. Now, whether they'd lowered the mics at that point or not after the referee who's the wanker in the black, I don't know.
Had, because that was definitely coming across quite
loud.
Maybe
they lowered the atmosphere mics at that point, but I personally didn't hear it. And like you were obviously at the ground, so you can hear a lot more than I can. So, but yeah, it was. It's the Premier League. If we want to be here, then we have to get used to it, don't we?
Or change it.
Doesn't mean we have to change. We just have to get used to other teams being quiet.
Oh, we're still. Oh, I don't mind that. This is basic. If we can, especially home, if we can use referee. But on the mention of referees, I'm going to talk because I know you were possibly trolling during the game. Saw a couple of messages pop up. I'm thinking, are you fucking kidding me?
He was fine, and I say that to say. He was fine in that he was equally bad for both teams.
Actually, I'm going to disagree there because on the way back to the station, I heard of some Fulham fans saying, yeah, the referee definitely favoured us being Fulham, and they're coming back there. He was appalling. I mean, it was basically, he was giving them free kicks that were dubious. Kaminsky he booked, then didn't book their goalkeeper for time wasting the goal up. Same offence, thinking, right, have some inconsistency. There was a double foul in the middle of the park. You say one looked like a flop. I don't think we'll do that in the middle of the park, but I mean, obviously, you could have the angle. But
that was Chong, right?
Yeah.
That was Chong. It was a flop.
But there was a foul just
the
before.
tackle right before that was a foul. Don't get me wrong. The tackle before that was a foul. But Chong's was a flop.
Okay. So he basically doesn't give one and then decides the other's a dive and books him for it. Some very, very dubious free kicks. One was given by the linesman, a couple of the edge of the areas. He was just absolutely all over the place. I mean, it's again, they probably knows the atmosphere, right? But it was, you could tell from our fans that so when he eventually did give us something, it was kind of, it's a miracle rings out. And that refereeing standards of, I don't know how, that's actually worse than Championship referees. This is a Premier League referees, and they're just absolutely shocking.
Well, again, it's the same thing as what we said about VAR, right? Inconsistent, yeah. I mean, okay, fine. The human can make mistakes, but he seemed to be almost determined not to give us anything. And I'm going to have some sympathy for the other promoted teams in a minute as well on that, because I think they're suffering and thinking, is there some directive? Oh, the three promoted teams, please send them straight back down. I don't think with Burnley.
Well, I guess that's slightly earlier than I'm planning, but Burnley, it was. I mean, I watched the game last night, or was a lot of the game last night. Burnley had a man sent off for a fairly harsh red card on VAR review, which I'm sure they got away with. And they had a goal I mean, I'm not disappointed to have a goal disallowed, or the main striker was suspended against us. But they had a goal disallowed where it's basically, they said it's got to be a deliberate handball for the player there. Now he's running onto it. He hit his chest, bounced onto his arm, brushed his arm. That, as I said, that doesn't get given as a penalty the opposite way. And you're thinking, that doesn't get given disallowed if it's Liverpool, if it's Man United or anything else like that. But because it's Burnley, because it's Sheffield United, because it's Luton, it may have done. Again, it's consistency. And
again, it's interpretation of the rules, right?
I'm fuming if those decisions go against us. As I said, I didn't mind because it's a basic relegation rival. But equally, you can look at thinking, that's not right.
So I used to always get told in my last job that the policies weren't black and white, they were very grey. So work your way around the greyness when it came to certain things. I think the rules that the referees are following, the referee handbook, I don't think it's black and white. I think it's grey. Or if it is black and white, it's not clear black and white. And that leaves open to interpretation. And everyone's going to interpret something differently. I'm not going to interpret things the way you do. You're not going to interpret things the way Alex does. Alex is not going to interpret things the way anyone else does.
Well, that'd be a hell of a translation error if Mangled English goes to Norwegian, goes to me.
but just in general, like not even talking about language barrier, just talking about interpretation of something. We're all going to interpret things. Like I interpreted the Chong thing as a flop. Now I can guarantee you there's Luton fans on Twitter that will say no, he was clearly caught. He was clearly fouled.
I mean,
my interpretation and their interpretation is different. The rule book for the refs needs to be black and white. It needs to be, this is a foul, this isn't. This is a handball, this isn't. And that's where the problem is. And like, again, I can go back to Paul Heckingbottom. The refs are ruining the game because they don't understand the game. They don't understand football.
But sure, that's going to be something. I mean, there's basic refereeing conferences, refereeing conventions. You've got some refereeing things thinking, right, okay, this is the way the rules should be or not. It seems to be right. Here it is. Interpret as you like, and if it's Man United or Liverpool, you can interpret it as software. I don't care.
At the end of the day, like, they're having all these ref conferences and, you know, training sessions and whatnot. It's not helping. It's not working. Honestly, I think the game, it's hard to say because VAR has got decisions right, but since VAR has come in, the game's got worse.
VAR gets decisions right sometimes, but VAR shouldn't get decisions wrong. Not when you can look at decisions of 5 different times from a neutral angle. But
if you notice the VAR decisions that they get right, they're always the stonewall ones that they get right, and even some stonewall ones they don't get right. But I mean, of the decisions that VAR gets right, I would say 95-97% of them are stonewall. Like, it doesn't matter how you interpret it, you're going to come to the same outcome. It's that gray area that there's no, and honestly, like, Howard Webb can come on as many shows as he wants and talk about, oh, we got this wrong over the weekend, we're very sorry, we're working to get better. No, that needs to be his job. That needs to be his job on the table and saying, you get this right or we get someone else.
I think with VAR, what it needs to be as well, it's, I mean, there was something about someone not wanting to send his mates a VAR screen because he had a bad weekend. Now, that's the other issue as well. You've got the VAR referees that look at something, and the second they send the referees to look at the screen, they know they're making a decision for him. I know that's not supposed to be the case, but have you ever seen a referee go to the screen and not change his mind or give a decision the way VAR says?
No.
And that's then an
expectation. Not that I can remember. But at the end of the day, they showed one where they brought the referee to the monitor, and literally all the VAR assistant said was, "Hey, I think you need to take a look at this." Before you be like, I think you need to take a look. He didn't say, "Hey, I think you need to take a look at this. I think that," and went into detail on what he thought. Literally, all he turned around and said was, "Hey, I think you need to take a look at this." The referee went to the monitor, looked at it, and reversed the decision.
But that's the thing, it almost seems to be expected. If you send the referee, if basically VAR send the referee to the monitor, the referee is going to look for what he's been sent to monitor for and give it. I've not seen any exceptions whatsoever for that. And that's wrong. I mean, it should be a case of, right, go and have a look, see what you think. Not go and have a look, see what you think, but you're going to give it anyway.
I think the problem is that as soon as they turn around and say, "Hey, I think you need to go have a look at this," doubt is immediately entered into the ref's head. Because he's instantly thinking, well, shit, if I was right, they wouldn't have me looking at the video. So doubt's immediately gone into his head as he's walking up to that camera, as he's walking up to that TV. Instantly, he's got doubt in his head going, oh shit, did I get this wrong? And he's looking to then see, did he get this wrong? And it's either going to go one of two ways. You're either going to have a referee who's not confident in himself, which you don't want either, and he's going to be looking for, oh shit, did I get it wrong? Oh shit, I got it wrong. Then you're going to have the other referees who are like, I don't care if I got this wrong. I'm not fucking admitting it. Referees, again, I come back to Paul Heckingbottom. Referees in the game are destroying it because they don't understand it. And here's the flip. Let's play devil's advocate. The referees don't understand the game. That's what Paul Heckingbottom came out and said. I don't disagree with him. How do you then get the referees to understand the game better and to be better? You got to bring them up the same way as football players, right? You got to bring them up through grassroots. You got to bring them up through the youth levels. But then you hear stories every single week about parents at youth levels attacking referees. So then that's
a completely different argument. We're going to run out of arguments.
But hold on. But you then have parents attacking referees, which means that person's probably not going to referee again, which means that's a referee gone. That's a referee out of your pool. And if that happens 50, 60 times in a weekend up and down England, that's 50 or 60 referees gone. So what do you then do to help the referees get better? Because what Howard Webb is doing right now is obviously not fucking working.
I mean, okay, not youth referees, because I mean, that's a different thing. And yes, parents then attacking the referees, you're thinking, no. I've seen that side of things. I've seen amateur levels as well. And I always have more respect for a referee who would have a laugh and joke with you, explain why he gave a decision, even though if he thought he may have been wrong at the time, he said, look, that's the way I saw it. And you had a lot more respect for it. But I think now you get referees who will not explain their decision. I mean, you've looked at Women's World Cup, they explain the decision over a sort of loudspeaker from what I saw. Rugby World Cup, it's, you know, they basically explain their decision again over a microphone. Why are referees in the Premier League at least not being sort of asked to explain their decision?
I can answer this in 2 words. Football fans.
Oh.
Yeah. The referee in rugby can get on the mic and say why he's made a decision, and it might not be liked, it'll be booed, but they won't be attacked, they won't be harassed. And I can bring you back in my younger days when I was growing up in Ireland. I played rugby for a small time before I stopped growing and everyone else did, and they were a lot bigger than me and they were sending me home black and blue. The refs in the game were able to explain it because the people playing the game, and this is not saying I am, but the people playing the game, and especially at the upper echelons, and again, talking about Ireland here, people in the upper echelons of rugby in Ireland specifically, and probably elsewhere, are upper class, middle to upper class. Football fans is your working man's, working woman's, working person's game. It's normally lower to barely middle class. Ollie K being the exception because he's got a really posh voice.
Oh no, I've never heard of him, but it was
really posh voice.
I mean, I think it's basically
it's got to be an act.
Possibly. I mean, Alex isn't here to respond to it as a source anyway, but it was.
That's why I said it on this podcast.
No, but I think even then it's right. Even if you don't explain it on loudspeaker at the time, maybe explain it after why you gave a decision, why you didn't. It's it just seems the referees can give a decision and hide behind it and refuse to admit they're wrong.
But I don't think it changed because football fans would still harass. Like you look at football fans with their own players sometimes. You know, oh, this person's asked for a move away, and all of a sudden their house has been under attack. It's football fans, you know. I'm not saying like all football fans need to be. That's football fans, but that's I feel one of the reasons why referees don't get up and don't say why they did or didn't get the decision. I think Howard Webb is the only one that does it, and it's basically his job to take the flak.
But if a referee came up and said why he did or didn't give him a decision or put it there, people might have a little bit more sympathy as it is.
Yeah.
They don't give it. They have this kind of, nope, I'm not talking about it. Not even to the managers. Sometimes they refuse it to the managers. And then it gets analysed to hell, then pundits come into it. So football fans make up their own minds anyway.
Yeah.
So surely for referees can actually got the chance to say, right, this is the way I saw it. And also you could see how different referees are interpreting it. That's going to be better for the game, surely.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I'm just giving you the reason why I think it doesn't happen. I don't disagree with it. I think they should.
And I disagree with saying, right, all football fans are lower middle class, because have you seen how much money it costs to go to that match now?
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
But so, even then, like I remember texting you during the playoff final and saying, why is the middle part of the fucking stadium empty? And you were like, oh, that's corporate. You know?
How long did it take me to respond to that?
Oh, well, it was the next day, I think it was.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, because signal getting through.
But there's areas set up for upper class within football stadiums. But let's face it, a large majority of fans that go week in, week out, especially to the home games, are season ticket holders, right? Would you agree?
With us, especially, yeah.
With us, especially, but in most teams, it's good. A large percentage of it will be season ticket holders. A lot of them season ticket holders are going to be your average Joe who's working long hours during the week, has weekends off, wants to go see his football team play,
Not in the
and
Premier League.
has
Not
put it
in the Premier League anymore.
has put it on it. Has put it on a credit card or has some sort of credit financing on it. You know, maybe it's true credit card. Who knows? They're putting on that. I wouldn't necessarily say they're rich just because they can afford a season ticket. Like, here's a perfect example. I wouldn't consider myself rich. I would barely consider myself middle class right now. With what the minimum wage and what people are earning over here. Okay, I took a trip to Disneyland for my son's birthday in July. Disneyland is extremely expensive. Am I now rich because I could afford a trip to Disneyland? Or was I just smart and being able to find a credit card that had a financing offer that I could put it on and then pay off over 15, 18 months?
I know. I've been to Disney. I found it really, really cheap when I went there.
You go skiing though as well. I'm not talking about you. You're not fucking lower class.
When I went to Disney, that was actually with the company I used to work for. They hired out the theme park.
Like, you're recording from what? Your 4th or 5th spare room in your house? I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about regular football fans.
4th or 5th? I'm recording from my lounge.
But yeah, I think most football fans are working during the week and want to go see their football on the weekends, and nothing wrong with that. But they're finding ways to financing. I don't necessarily think they're upper class.
How did this get into a class conversation?
I don't know.
That's your fucking fault. I'd expect that from Alex, not you.
We spent 5 minutes at the start basically slagging each other. We spent 15 minutes in the middle going on about far. Now we spend another 5 minutes on upper class. Have we talked about the club at all during this podcast?
We've mentioned the game. So let's move on before you get on some random rant, which let's face it, is going to be listed by now anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But again, for the second week in a row, Garth Crooks, the Archer tendency hypocrite. I mean, obviously, neither of us are going to have a good word to say about him, and he's really not going to be that bothered. But I'm just going to say he comes up with his rants. Rob Edwards says, invites him to the club. He doesn't come back, but no. He then doubles down his rant and then goes on with some absolutely fucking clueless piece of shit about how the owners aren't ambitious enough and so, don't know what they're doing running the club. And then somebody brings up what he said about Forest the previous year. Oh, the owners, they gamble in the club, spending all this money in case they go down. What the fuck is this guy on? He's a fucking twat.
It's clickbait, Nick. That's all it is. And I said last week that I didn't want to talk about him because you were just giving him the airtime and that he wanted. He wanted people talking about him. He wanted people clicking on it. He wanted.
Nobody listen to us. He's not getting any airtime.
I know. All eight of our listeners. We'll spark them up into a rage against them. This week it upset me. It pissed me off. But at the same point, I stand by what I said last week. Let's not give them the airtime. Let's not give them the time of day. There's going to be, like, back in the non-league days, if someone had said this, we were the only Luton Town podcast. Just like another 4 or 5 that can easily talk about this right now. Let them talk about it. Am I pissed about what he said? Yes. Does it annoy me? Yes, of course it does. Am I willing to give him airtime? No.
Now we're just going to say, right, if someone's going to be a twat, you can call him a twat.
He's a twat.
Yeah.
He's definitely a twat. Like, I think the word we used for Danny Mills back on the podcast was he's a cunt. He's a cunt. Garth Crooks is a cunt. And Danny Mills is a cunt. Garth Crooks is a what's the word I'm looking for? Cowardly cunt.
Okay.
Because he came out with his first article, and you're making me talk about it now, which I didn't want to do. But he came out with his first article and basically lambasted the club. And then Gary Sweet and Rob Edwards said, hey, Garth, come down to our club. Let us show you around. Let us show you what we're doing. Instead of taking them up on the offer and saying, okay, I'll go down there. And then maybe turn around and saying, you know what? I went down there. Gary Sweet's great. Rob Edwards is great. The lads are great. But it hasn't changed my mind on what I said. I still stand by what I said. He could have easily come out and said that. He doesn't take them up the offer. He rambles on about the 80s. And don't get me wrong, we were good in the 80s. I like to think back in the 80s too. And then, basically has a go at the current regime of the club, which just shows how little he knows about the club.
Well, I think the response to Mike from the Luton News. It's he did an opinion news. I mean, there was some going to sort of take a few sort of paragraphs from it, because I'm not going to sort of really try and top that, because he said everything there. But it was when he said, "Oh, the club has invested in no infrastructure," he points out, okay, so he spent 13 million on the ground, which is more than any other club apart from Liverpool done during the close season. Got 25 million on a new ground. We've improved things. We brought in new players, everything else. And we've not spent 100 million, and we've not set ourselves to bankruptcy as we go down. That's all you can say for it.
Here's the thing, like, everyone and anyone that's a Luton fan that has access to recording equipment can come on and have their opinion on the Garth Crooks situation. But I don't think anyone's going to come close to saying it the way Mike said it, the way Mike Simmons said it. That article was perfect, down to a T.
Yeah.
Like, by him saying the current regime, he is showing that he doesn't know anything about this club, because without the current regime, we aren't here. I don't mean we're not. I don't mean we're not in the Premier League. I mean this club does not exist. We're probably following Luton something or other as a new starter club, if we're being realistic.
I mean, just give an example of what it could be the other end of the scale. One of my best mates is a Southend fan. He went to the game tonight. They had 2 substitutes. They've got an owner who's been hanging on and saying, "Oh, I've got these people coming in," but this owner's been basically borrowing from loan sharks. They're getting wound up in 2 weeks. Unless something very, very drastic happens, they're getting wound up in 2 weeks. And that's a sad end for a club.
Yeah.
Because they mortgaged on staying in the Premier League.
Now, they mortgaged the wrong way, but they mortgaged on staying in the Premier League. And another perfect example is Sheffield United.
No, this is Southend. Southend.
Southend, not Southampton. Okay, I thought you said Southampton. But Scunthorpe, I think, is another one, right?
Yeah.
That I seen today that they're in problems. But you look at Sheffield United last year. They went down the year before. Last year, basically, everyone said, if they don't go back up, I think we said it on this podcast, if they don't go back up, they're in real trouble. Real trouble.
You know who else is in trouble if they don't go back up?
Burnley.
No, they're up anyway.
Oh, they didn't go back up? Watford.
No, but exactly, yeah.
But Watford will just sack their manager.
Yeah, but I think their debts are actually quite substantial. They're in big trouble if they don't go up, and they're not looking like
they're not looking like it. Like Stoke hung on by the skin of their teeth. I remember a couple of years back after they went down.
Stoke hung on by people's betting accounts, basically.
And it's just you kind of look at it and go, would you prefer us to be them? Would you prefer us not to have a club in 2 years' time? Would you prefer us not to be around? Because that's how it comes across. It comes across as if he's saying, "I want this club gone," and I secretly wonder if he's a scummer. I don't think he ever played for them, but I'm wondering if maybe he's a scummer fan.
I think he's just a publicity-seeking git. But I also think you've got to control their Twitter account, because within 2 minutes of the final whistle last night when Burnley got a point, probably less than that, because I saw it 11 minutes ago, I'm thinking the game only finished about 12 minutes ago. The Match of the Day Twitter account goes, Luton only last Premier League club with 0 points. Then for another one, Luton fans look away now. I'm thinking, give us a break. Right, moving on, because we just had an interruption because Gav's a fucking technical retard when it comes to everything else, despite spending 20 minutes doing
it. Was going so well.
Amateurs I'm working with. I'm the only one who's actually not bothering being professional, and I'm actually working with the amateurs. Work that out.
No. I would just like to say, anyone that listens to this will not exactly call you professional, because you have a phone or something on your desk and it keeps buzzing and it's annoying the fuck out of me. And until I had the technical difficulties, I was going to rip you a new one once we got off air. I was going to be like, Nick, for fuck's sake, move your phone onto something cushioned or something. Don't leave it on the fucking desk, the same desk you have your computer on, your iPad on, whatever. But now I've had the technical difficulties, so I can't exactly do that. So let's just move on and forget this ever happened.
Right. Okay. So finishing off, if anyone's still watching, which they probably are, or listening, including Gav, it seemed on Gav's computer. I can't blame him on that one. There's Alex buzzing my phone.
Fuck off.
Right. So yeah,
in the nicest way, mate. Fuck off.
Right. So yeah. So Wolves game. We're getting close to a point. We've done conceded 4 goals, 3 goals, 2 goals, 1 goal. Wolves down there with us.
Hold on. Whoa. Did you read what he just sent?
No.
I'm not going to read it on air, but read what he just sent. And my response to him is, most of us come from Scandinavia because you fuckers came over and pillaged us anyway, buddy. Anyway, Nick.
Besides which, he's technically correct because you're not quarantined. You're quarantined over on a different continent.
No, he's talking about just my people in general.
Ah, fair enough.
Anyway, Wolves.
So we've done Class Wars. We've
More
done
alcohol.
Alex even not being involved. That's not alcohol, surely.
Leave me alone, Nick. Just get on to the next question.
Right, Wolves. We've done 4 goals, 3 goals, 2 goals, 1 goal. We're getting closer and closer. I'm not going to make any predictions. You'd be hopeful, though, wouldn't you, of getting something?
I'm not making any predictions either, but yes, you would be hopeful that we get something. It can't keep going this bad for us. Not for the team, not for this podcast. It just can't. At some point, we're going to have a good result, both on the field, as a team, and on this podcast. I'm absolutely sure of it. Absolutely sure of it. Maybe this weekend is the turning point. Maybe we beat Wolves in the weekend and we have a really good podcast next week.
I just said I'm beating Wolves at the weekend. I don't give a shit if we have a shit podcast. I have a shit podcast quite happily for the next 5 years if we beat some of those, start picking up the results.
I'm getting you a mic and some headphones.
Why?
Just because I want to.
Do you think I'd use them?
Is that the end of this podcast? Are we done?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Fucking end it there.
I thought we ended about 10 minutes ago when you cut out.
Hey, Ollie, I hope you liked the intro. It's the only thing we're watching in this fucking...
And remember, we're professional.
We're professional.